Hi there. Good afternoon. Saturday afternoon. It's a bit raining out there today. Um, Here to talk about a band that's probably my first rock band. One that I got into probably in 1975. I would say that was the year that I really started to listen to anything remotely different from what I'd been listening to up until that point, which had been country western. That's what my parents listened to. So, of course, that's what I listened to. Um, Also, some 50s rock music. My friend had a K-Tel album with all 50s music on it, and my mother and my dad liked that 50s rock as well. So, those were the things I'd listened to at that point in time. And then I moved up to, what happened was my friend got AM, FM, I don't even know if it was FM, might have been FM, a little radio transistor with a clock on it and an alarm on it. That's basically what his parents got him for that, so he'd get up for school in time. At that point in time, I was probably maybe 8 or 10 years old. Might even been a little bit older. No, I was about 11. That's what it was. And he got also at the same time for that Christmas prior to that in 74, he got this kind of a cassette recorder. So you needed the little cassettes to record on, a blank cassette. So we had a couple of those. And what we did is we turned on the AM radio and we just taped everything that came on, because we were interested in music, but there wasn't much around where we were other than the country stuff, which I was getting tired of. But anyway, so he recorded a whole bunch of stuff off of the AM radio, including songs like "You Sexy Thing" from Hot Chocolate, "That's the Way I Like It" by Casey and the Sunshine Band. And there was a few other things on there. But there was this one song. It was kind of heavier and more rocky. It started out with this cool guitar riff, more of a picking thing, and then it just started moving along into this kind of poppy, heavy song. And that song was Quick Change Artist, and the band was BTO. And today, that's what we're here for. We're here to do the top 10, or my top 10 favorite songs of the rock band Bachman Turner Overdrive, also known as BTO. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll do the top 10 songs in reverse order, so number 10 to number 1. And I'm also going to do some honorable mentions at the end, because there was a few. They have a it's not a very deep catalog, but they have a lot of songs that I like, and there was quite a few of them, and I had to, of course, exclude a few which I thought could have made this list on any other given day, but today it didn't make it, so I'm just going to mention them at the end. So without further ado, we're going to get into the top 10, my top 10 favorite songs by the rock band Bachman Turner Overdrive, who incidentally are Canadian, and they do me proud. I would think of BTO as a hard rock, pop rock, a little bit of blues, a little bit of jazz in there. Also, there's kind of this country western background in there too, just a little bit, more like a feel than actually any songs. And maybe that was the reason why I was able to transition from all that country music I'd been listening to this band, which was quite a bit heavier and quite a bit different than anything I'd listened to up until that point. So it made it easy for me to make that transition. They were probably the perfect band in the perfect spot. And to me, BTO really doesn't fit in with any kind of group. I mean, in some ways, I guess they have that southern rock appeal, but not really. I feel like they belong in that, but they don't really sound like those groups. And being Canadian, of course, maybe they just belong out west. They got a little bit of an element of Guess Who in there too, because of Randy Bachman, but not. I don't really think of them as being like the Guess Who. I like them much better. Not that Guess Who is bad or anything like that. They just don't have the same kind of impact on me. April Wine a little heavier than them, maybe Trooper, some of those other Western bands, Stampeders and that. But for me, BTO was in a class by themselves. They were, again, the first rock band I ever listened to. So, anyways, without going on too much longer about it, I'm going to start my top 10 songs by the rock band BTO. Okay, the first number 10 song coming in at number 10, and of course, some of these songs could switch on any given day. The top 2 or 3 are pretty much stable there. They're pretty much there all the time. The other ones all move around it quite a bit. Anyways, the song I chose is a song called Down and Out, which I think is on their first album. I didn't write that one down. It's the only one I missed for some reason. And it's sung by Randy Bachman. It's a little bit melodic, milder song. Randy had more of a milder voice than CF or Freddie. And this song is typical Randy Bachman mellow song. I really like it. It was one of the very first BTO songs that I liked, other than the ones that I got off the radio. It was, if you like, it might have been called the first deep cut from this album. And so I listened to it quite a bit early on, and recently I got the album again, because I had it in LPs originally, and I didn't have it in disc set or in CD, and I wanted it in CD, but it wasn't that easy of an album to find. I did find it recently, and I've been playing it quite a bit lately. So Down and Out Man, Down and Out Man, if you prefer. Number 9 is the rock stable on most rock stations, and BTO is one of these bands that has just as many. I like their radio stuff almost as much as their deep cuts. It's a bit unusual. I tend not to be that way. I tend to be like the deep cuts more, mostly because the songs on the radio just burn out after a while. But this one never has, and I still listen to it. I still like it. It's You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, which many might feel is maybe their number 2 song in their history. Whether it's number 2 or number 1 doesn't really matter. I still really like the song. It comes in at number 9 for me. It's from the album Not Fragile. This is another Randy Bachman vocal. It's a little different with that stuttery kind of voice that he does on it, but it's catchy as hell. Like, it's got some real good riffs in it, and he really knew how to write a kind of a formula for music. These riffs he would throw in with the cool lyrics and some different sounds, but also kind of heavy, which I like. This song was one of the first heavy ones that I liked. Moving on to number 8 is a song from BTO 1, which is called Hold Back the Water. This is the first one on the list of Freddie, with Freddie singing. Freddie had a very different voice than Randy Bachman. Randy Bachman had that kind of a mellow, easygoing type voice. Freddie was nothing like that. He had this real gravel pit sound to him, like a real biker song type guy. But I dig his vocals, man. He's one of the best vocalists out there, I think. Hold Back the Water is that kind of song that kind of reminds me of a bit of a southern flair to it. Maybe a little bit, even though it's kind of heavy, kind of gives me that impression of a country song that's gone heavy. I really like Freddie's voice on this too. It's typical Freddie, really grinding. Anyways, my number 7 song is Quick Change Artist from the 4-Wheel Drive album. It's the first BTO song I ever heard. It's the first kind of rock song I ever really listened to, at least rock from the 60s, 70s and on. I had listened to some stuff from the 50s, but this was really the first song that got me into rock music, and played it quite a bit when it first came out. Really dig that kind of guitar part at the beginning. And it keeps up throughout the song, which is quite good. And the song actually gets a little heavier as you go along. It really is a kind of pop to heavy song. And of course, this is another Randy Bachman vocal. Great written song too. Perfect for the time period. Maybe outdated now, but I still love the song very much. It comes in at number 7 for me today, anyways. It's been higher at times. It's been as high as number 1 at one point. The next song is Down Down, which comes from the Freeways album, which is, I don't want to say it's the last BTO album because they did stuff after that, but it's the last BTO album that I bought and was into at the time. I actually got it at the library at the time and played it quite a bit. I would borrow it periodically. I don't think I actually ever owned the LP. It's on my list to get, but again, it's like a lot of that stuff from the early 70s, not so easy to get. Anyways, the song Down Down, love this song. It's the only song on that album that really resonated with me great, and it makes number 6 for a reason. It's a staple for me when I like to sing in the shower, or at least it was. Not so much now, but I really dig it. And of course, it's another Randy vocal. The guy just knew how to sing. He knew how to write catchy, more poppy, more the lyrics were good, more poppy type of music than CF was. Okay, then we get into the top 5. These top 5 have been pretty stable in that, not particular order, but in being in the top 5 for me for quite a few years now. And BTO dates back for me to about 1975, so they've been around a long time in my history. And they're one of the few bands that never kind of, I listened to and then I never listened to for a long period, and then I got back into it. That never happened with them. I listened to them even through the period in the 90s where I really wasn't listening to any music. I still would listen to my BTO. So this song, number 5, is Sledgehammer. Wow, it was like one of the heaviest of BTO songs. It comes off Not Fragile, and this is Freddie Turner at his best. Just that gravel pit voice that he has, like, I mean, this guy, if he'd come up now in the 90s, he could have been like one of those bands that does that kind of voice. I can't think of what they're called right now. He could have fit in there easily. Anyways, the song is very heavy, definitely a hard rock. I never think of BTO as heavy metal. To me, they're not heavy metal. They're definitely a hard rock. Maybe a kind of a poster boy for hard rock music. This song is very heavy. I dig it a lot. Played it quite a lot when I first got the album. Comes from Not Fragile, which is arguably BTO's best album. The next song up is number 4. Is quite a bit different. It's a rock staple on most rock stations. One of the BTO's bigger songs. A song that I long liked to sing. I've sang and I've liked it almost since the beginning. The first time I heard it. Comes off the album 4-Wheel Drive. Probably the second BTO song I ever listened to. And between that and You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, those two were in there. But I think KU was the next one after Quick Change Artist. Anyways, it comes in 4th. It's called Hey You for 4-Wheel Drive, and Randy Bachman is featured on vocals here. A good song, bordering on hard rock, a little poppier than some of the other songs, but also got a lot of radio play. I don't know if it still does. I imagine it still does. It's one of their more well-known songs. Great tune. Love it. Number 3. Now we get into the top 3, which have been in the top 3 for a while. The first one is a heavy song. For Randy Bachman, this is a very heavy song. He tends to be a little bit more poppy, more bluesy than C.F. Turner, who's heavier. Maybe because C.F.'s voice fits the role better, but on this particular song, which is Not Fragile, coming in at number 3 from the Not Fragile album, it features Randy Bachman on vocals. The first time I heard this song, which probably was, I don't know, probably like mid-70s, and it had been around for a bit, but I really liked the song. It was probably the last hurrah for BTO with me, as far as they were at this point my favorite band, and that was just before I discovered Kiss Alive, which just really rocketed me into music, into rock music. And after that point, Kiss was the only band I would listen to for a period of time, throwing BTO in there once in a while. Anyways, Not Fragile, from the Not Fragile album. Great tune, number 3. Number 2, a song that grew on me. I initially never listened to it much when I first listened to the album. It's off the Not Fragile album as well. It was one of those tunes that I didn't pay much attention to, and gradually over time it began to catch on with me, and then it became, in probably the 80s, it became one of those songs that I listened to quite a bit off of the album, and now it's definitely it's my favorite song on this album. So coming in at number 2 is Rock Is My Life and This Is My Song. I really like it. It's a kind of a story, and it encompasses what it's like to be a rock band, what it's like to be in a rock band. It's just cool tune, you know. Randy Bachman again on vocals here. It's my favorite of Randy's songs. It's a song I always go back to if I'm feeling like a BTO fix, just one or two songs. This is one of those 2 songs that I always pick. The other one will be my number 1. Okay, number 1, a song played a lot on the radio, a radio flick, and no, it isn't the one that people think I'm going to say. That didn't make my list. I never really got into that song, but I'll talk about that later. Anyways, we're talking about Let It Ride, which came off the BTO 2. It's the only BTO 2 song on here, but it's number 1. C.F. Turner doing the vocals here, I think. Is this C.F. Turner? Yeah, definitely CF. It's very grindy. Just a crunching song. It's one of their heavier songs, and it's good right from the beginning to the end. I've never worn out on this song. I still go back to it. If I have a day where I feel like listening to BTO, this is one of the songs I want to hear. But I don't own this album. It's difficult to find. I've never owned this album. I do have the best of BTO so far, and the track is of course on there, so that's where I listen to it from. But I'd love to find this album somewhere. Not one of their better albums, but this particular song is their best song. In my opinion, it's my favorite anyways. So there you have it, the top 10 songs from the rock band Bachman Turner Overdrive, also known as BTO. So I'm going to do the list again, just list again, and then I'll do the honorable mentions after that. So the list starts out: number 1, Let It Ride. Number 2, Rock Is My Life, This Is My Song. Number 3, Not Fragile. Number 4, Hey You. Number 5, Sledgehammer. Number 6, Down Down. Number 7, Quick Change Artist. Number 8, Hold Back the Water. Number 9, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And number 10, Down and Out, or Down and Out Man if you prefer that. So my honorable mentions, we'll start with the song that generally makes this list, but for today it didn't, and that is 4-Wheel Drive. Great crunching song. Freddie on vocals here. Came from the album 4-Wheel Drive, which is, you know, one of probably top 2 for me for BTO. Great album, lots of good stuff on it. This is a hard song, great song. The other 3 honorable mentions: Looking Out for number 1. This is kind of mellow, a little bluesy sound to it, maybe a little jazzy sound to it as well. Features Randy on vocals from the Head On album. Stay Awake All Night. The thing I like about this is Freddie's really gravelly here, but there's a screeching part at the end, which is just unbelievable. It's not something that BTO normally does, but on this particular song they did it, and it sounded perfect. And then of course the last one that I'll mention, and that one was from BTO 1. This one's also from BTO 1, featuring Randy on vocals, Gandy Dancer. Love that song. It's kind of poppy. I don't think it was ever on the radio much, but definitely a deep cut. a song that you don't hear much from BTO, but if you get into BTO, you'll hear this song, and it's solid song. Anyway, so there you have it, a top 10 of the rock band, Canadian rock band, Bachman Turner Overdrive, BTO. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Coming up probably tomorrow. I know this was supposed to go out yesterday, but I just didn't have the time, so I'm putting it out. I put it out today. Coming up tomorrow will be a look back album by a legendary progressive rock band, and I hope you can tune in and see that as well. Anyways, from Prog Monster, signing off for today. You have a good day, and we'll see you again soon.